Alright, so this is a quick little book review, kind of book review slash breakdown on a book I read recently, and that book is called Lombardi. Winning is the Only Thing, and it's edited by Kramer, which just kind of means he's the author if you're gonna look for this book by author Kramer. And what it is it's a compilation of interviews with people closest to Vince Lombardi, who, if you don't know who Vince Lombardi is, he is the most famous coach in NFL, one of the most famous coaches in NFL history. He coaches the Green Bay Packers in their early stages of existence, and he led them to many world titles in football, so one of the greats in football history. And what this book does is this book kind of breaks down his life into pieces based off like his childhood and things like that. So it's kind of like a chronological breakdown of who Vince Lombardi is and what he did to get the success he had in the NFL. So it's a nice little compilation of stories, like I said, there by people who are closest to Vince Lombardi. The very first story is the introduction by Kramer himself, I believe, and it was just kind of a little story about how he was trying to interview Lombardi while he was sick on his deathbed and how close he was to him. And then like it goes into Joseph Lombardi, who talked about their childhood, and then it went to like Earl H. Blake, who gave him kind of like a coaching job and his first chance at coaching. And so yeah, just some good stories. Another good one here is by let me find his name, Sam Huff, and he came out of retirement to play for Vince, so kind of a cool little story there. So yeah, it's a good little book if anyone's interested in reading it. It's not a very long book. It's about 200. It's under 200 pages. It's about 175. And once you hit like the 170 mark, that's when they throw in like his Super Bowl speech and his head coaching record. So some cool little stats and figures if you're interested in that. But anyway, so the book it's pretty good. It teaches you a lot. I can tell you I learned a lot about Vince Lombardi and kind of coaching in general. It's like, more specifically, I learned about that Vince Lombardi is shy, and I didn't know that. I didn't think one of the toughest coaches in NFL history and one of the most successful guys in NFL could be so shy, and he was. And the story, I believe, was told by either Earl H. Blake, or actually no, it wasn't. It was West Pointers. He was talking about they would go to clubs, and they would hang out at clubs and talk to girls and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to learn that, like, when he was at the clubs, he would be the wallflower of his group, instead of out there and being abrasive like he is on the field. He was kind of that guy who would hang out in the corner and just kind of do his own thing. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was a nice little story too. Anyway, it's a good book. I think it applies really well to the audience, and the audience is clearly football fans who know who Vince Lombardi is, or it could even be football fans who are interested in coaching, or who have an interest in learning about how to become a better kind of coach, or develop a better coach-player relationship, because this book has some interesting stories with players who played for him about how he was always helping them mature, and how they always appreciate what he did for them. So it was pretty good in that sense, that you learn about how to be a better player, so how to be a better coach and get a better relationship with your players. So that's always cool. Yeah, another really cool thing this book does is it uh, talks about Lombardi's passion and drive for the game, which is important in coaching, but also talks about how he was willing to do anything to win. And I think in this current day and age of sports, I think it's very, very important that anyone who has an interest in coaching or any interest at all in doing things like doing coaching kind of jobs or following uh, anything related to sports has to know how to win. So I think this book does a good job of teaching young talent wanting to learn to win how to win and what drive you need to win. So some other thoughts about the book. It's kind of some of the stories kind of drag on. They kind of get a little carried away with some of the details. Like I believe the story with Merv Harmon. Actually, no, it was not Merv Harmon. It was like I think it was Alex Wojcik. He was talked about earlier on. He'd do anything to win when he was a player. For those of you who didn't know either, Vince Lombardi was also a football player for Fordham University, and this is a nice little interesting tidbit as well. Fordham is like the starting place for Mr. Lombardi. He went to school there. He played there. He got his first coaching job there, as I think West and Earl Blake tell you about. But Adam Wojcik kind of was talking about early on being his teammate and stuff, and the story just kind of drug on to get to a fight. Like it just talked about a lot of detail what Vince thought of the football team and kind of who was on the team and describing the experience of playing with him, but it also just kind of wanted to tell you about Vince fighting another teammate to kind of put him in his place, and that's how he described his drive to win. But it just kind of took forever to get to that point. So some of the other stories kind of drag on too. The West Point story kind of drug on, and that's just kind of it's a minor nitpick. It doesn't derive overall from the book, but it's just something to keep your mind on, that the details are great, which is you want that in a book. You want really, really good details, but some of the details too feel like it's more show, don't tell, which you don't want. You want show, not tell. Or sorry, for me it's more it tells and not shows. So there's that, but yeah, some other things I have to say about the book. Like I said, I learned a lot about Vince Lombardi himself, but I also learned about maybe breaking into coaching, what it takes, because Vince Lombardi had a lot of drive, he had a lot of passion, and he really cared about his athletes, and so you need to develop these relationships with those athletes, even though this book kind of portrays athletes as kind of childish and mature. I believe the article with Frank Gifford here says he's always trying to please him, but he never could please him because he wasn't ever really mature. So it just kind of teaches you that your players aren't always going to be the most mature people there, but it's important to kind of try and develop that relationship no matter who you are. So just good book overall. I think anyone who's says they're a fan of the NFL or who says that they are an expert on anything historical in football needs to read this book, because it might teach you some stuff. It might teach you some interesting facts you didn't know about Vince Lombardi, and and it's a good little book. I mean, it kind of shows a good relationship with the media and sports. Jerry Creamer, I believe, was working for the publishing company, but he also kind of came off as a journalist doing these stories and interviews, so he kind of gave a positive representation of media and sports, and it also kind of addresses some minor issues with the media, like Kramer having trouble scheduling anything with Vince, and yeah, the difficulties of scheduling with sports and media, but other than that, I mean, there's no really other mentions of media and sports. So if you're looking for that, there's none in this book. Sorry to tell you that, but all right, I'm gonna close this out with was it worth reading? And yeah, I think it was. I think it was a very interesting book. Some of the stories are really really good. Some of them highlight some details that are very important to learning about who Vince Lombardi was and how he kind of transformed the NFL into something completely different that we did not expect. So I think it's worth picking up, especially if you're a football fan, or I think even if you have an interest in coaching. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be football. It could be anything. It doesn't even have to be a sport. It could be coaching, typing, or coaching, coaching knitting, whatever else you can coach. I think it's important that you read this book because it tells you how to be a great coach in general, not just for football, and how to really develop a connection with your athletes. So, alright guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening to my little book review podcast. Like I said, if you're interested in reading the book I read, it's called Lombardi, Winning is the Only Thing, and Jerry Kramer is the author. So, thanks for listening guys. Keep out, might start doing some reviews. So, thanks for listening. Peace out.